Welcome back to TECHNOBABBLE. Following up on the PC upgrade I recently did, I felt like it was warranted to look into a new mouse and keyboard, as the ones I've been using were basically just the cheapest wireless peripherals I could get. Though I do enjoy the ones I have had, they do just work and work quite well for the price. They're just not the best. So I hit the market, and the Logitech G305 mouse is apparently pretty popular amongst gamers. I've heard about it by name in other YouTube videos, and it sits on Amazon as Amazon's choice for PC gaming mouse or some such. I will do my best to cover the specifications about the mouse and how well it works, at least compared to my old cheap one, but I plan to cover tech specs towards the end of the video. For now, I want to cover some of my thoughts and the issues I've had during the 20-something days since I got the product. 21 days if this video goes up when I plan it to. First impressions are that the mouse is fairly light, but again, my only real comparison is the old cheapo TechNet mouse that I've grown fully accustomed to because I've used it for years now. The G305 was unboxed, nothing special there, and the mouse is incredibly easy to connect to a PC. Just plug in the USB dongle into a free USB port on your system, or you could use the included USB extension cable. Nice and simple. But what about actually using it, I hear you say? Well, upon my first use, it does what I wanted a new mouse to do with some caveats, but we'll get to those here shortly. The main thing I wanted was a mouse that allowed me to hit more than 2 buttons at once. Sort of the same thing that I looked for in a keyboard, but that's going to be its own video, so get subscribed if you want to check that out with me. Anyway, back to the subject at hand, and apologies in advance for going a bit off topic here. It's going to get long-winded, but I think my rambles will help fill in some of my thoughts about the mouse. Okay, you with me? Let's go. Alright, so I tend to play a lot of first-person shooters, and some of those games have a lean function that are usually mapped to the Q and E keys on the keyboard, meaning in order to lean around a corner in a shooter game, you would have to lift your fingers off your movement controls, the W, A, S, and D keys. So being able to map the lean function to mouse 4 and 5 seems like a pretty good way to go about it, while allowing you to still move your character in games. And a lot of people seem to agree if you look up anything about this online. The point here is that I had really hoped that the G305 would allow me to map those mouse buttons in games, specifically the Stalker series, and it'd be able to work. I mean, my main reasoning again for wanting a new mouse was that my old mouse only allowed 2 buttons to be pressed at once without having ghosting issues. I know ghosting is a term generally used for keyboards and may mean something else for computer mice. What I mean is just a mouse that allows for more simultaneous inputs. Anyway, I guess I had forgotten why exactly it wouldn't allow me to map those buttons in Stalker. It turns out that those games specifically won't allow the mouse 4 or 5 inputs to be used to lean. Jumping back to the mouse itself for a second here, the first thing I actually noticed in the game was that my right click didn't allow me to aim down the sights of whatever weapon I had equipped. I figured that had to be a firmware issue, and I needed to download the Logitech G305 app, which I saw about in the paperwork from the unboxing. Okay, I have to download an app, but fair enough, I suppose. Sucks that for whatever reason it didn't want to work right out of the box. Downloading the app did fix the right click issue. So back into the game I went, with hopes of being able to get those lean controls mapped, partly for testing the mouse and partly to see if the game would allow it to work. Sadly, it did not. Since getting the G305, I found that some older shooter games just won't allow you to map anything at all to mouse 4 or 5, and in the particular case of the Stalker series, they straight up refuse to map 4 or 5 to lean, but anything else seems to be fine. So, oh well, that's not going to work. However, I knew that with the G305 app, I could try to bind the mouse 4 and 5 buttons to other things, and decided to try mapping them in the software to act like the Q and E keys under a profile specifically set for the Stalker game I was playing. Only to be disappointed yet again that the game didn't pick up the inputs from the mouse. I'm not sure why. Maybe I used the app wrong. I mean, I'm still relatively new to it. Or maybe it's just not overriding those games specifically. So I gave up on setting the lean function mapped in Stalker and moved on. Or so I thought. Just so happens that it turns out I made a mistake in setting up any kind of profile on the G305 because at random and without any warning, it tried to use those bindings in other games. For example, I went into a match of Halo Infinite and the mouse changed to the Stalker preset, which I had actually deleted shortly after trying it. And not just the bindings, I deleted the entire Stalker profile from the G-Hub app, but for some reason those settings have reoccurred a few times. Anyway, like I was saying, it happened once specifically in a match of Halo Infinite, where in the game normally I have mouse 4 and 5 set to grenades and a melee, but the G-Hub app decided to overwrite the default profile, and at random, with a profile I had deleted, changing the mouse buttons into acting like they were the Q and E keys. This is super annoying because I don't know a guaranteed way to reset the mouse or to make sure that it won't ever come back again, despite the fact that I deleted the custom game profile I made for Stalker. And the application does a terrible job of trying to explain anything about how to use it. However, if you've done the same, don't worry, because I think I may have figured out a way to fix the issue. I'm not 100% sure on this yet, but keep an eye on the comments and description of the video. If I have any more issues, I'll report it there. So if you happen to run into the same issue, you'll want to go to the default profile under the Games and Apps section of the G-Hub app. Then click the Details icon and set the default profile as persistent. I really hope this fixes the issue, but only time will tell. Which is just a long way to say it's going to leave me worrying about when the app may decide to overwrite the mouse and its default state with whatever other application's profile it feels like it wants to activate. I talked to my friend Game Despo, and he's actually employed in the IT sector, and he has basically been a lifelong PC gamer and said that he's had no issues with Logitech, but only ever downloaded the applications until he ran into issues with them and then deleted the apps to refrain from having said issues. Though he also doesn't take any issues with the actual hardware products. I just can't wrap my head around this, as the application should be made to work well out of the gate. It should be better managed than it seems to be. Long story short, I take lots of issue with the G-Hub application, yet the hardware, the mouse itself, seems fine, and I've really grown to enjoy it. I just wish that Logitech would care more about the application they seem to require you to use, because again, the mouse wouldn't register a right click until I downloaded the app. Since it's required and advertised as a feature and allows you to customize the mouse, I think it should just work, or have a better tutorial at the very least. Apologies again, that was a really long-winded way to say that the application is crap, but I feel like the entire story was warranted just to tell my reasoning behind calling it as such. Now for the tech specs. The G305 advertises a reporting rate or polling rate of 1000 Hz, and according to an online test, it claims I hit around 995 Hz, which is pretty close to the advertised, so I'm pretty happy with that. It does seem to vary as you run through the different DPI settings though. On the same website, you can also test the clicks and how many buttons you can press at once, and as you can see, I can press all 4 main buttons at once, and even the mouse wheel click too, though that feels really awkward to me. You can change both your report rate and the DPI settings, which is the dots per linear inch, or in layman's term, how fast the mouse moves across your screen. All that can be customized in the Logitech G-Hub app, but after the experience I have had with the app, I don't know that I can really recommend changing anything. Logitech also advertises the G305 as having the Hero sensor, which allows for up to 12,000 DPI, but comes with 400, 800, 1600, and 3200 set as presets for the DPI button by default. I keep my mouse on 800 and it feels pretty good. Their other big selling point is that the battery life is up to like 250 hours on a single battery, and I have used the mouse with the included battery for again something around 20 days by the time of this posting. I usually keep it turned off and put away when not in use. If you have kids, you may understand that. But I have put a good few hours into gaming, playing through Fear 1 and its DLC, and through Fear 2 and its DLC, and general play in some other games, and around 1 match per day of Halo Infinite, just for the Microsoft Rewards points. Really, it acts like coupons for other games to me. So really, the mouse seems pretty well as advertised, and it isn't too flashy, but seems to get the job done. I really don't like the application, but that's kind of just how it is, I guess. And I can either pour time into trying to understand it or uninstall it and just ignore it until the mouse actually needs new firmware. So, is the G305 worth the price? I don't know that I feel justified in saying as such. It seems like a pretty good deal, as some other mice can be way more expensive, but it also isn't incredibly cheap either, at around $50 when not on sale. If you're not into gaming or don't care about pressing more than 2 buttons at a time on your mouse, then the TechNet mouse, the cheap one that I've used, works wonderfully and is usually, or maybe even perpetually, on sale for $10.19 or so. I'll leave non-affiliated links for both of the mice below. They will not be affiliated. And that's really it. This has been Valhalla's Demise on TechnoBabble. Hope you're doing well and hope to catch you in the next one.